Alright, thank you very much. Hello everybody, it's your good friend Pozzible here, and I'm back in action with another look at another movie that came out in theaters recently. And I have to admit, when it comes to movies, this particular one I was looking forward to. But boy, did it disappoint me. And I was very upset with that. So if you like this movie, you might want to stop now, because I'm just going to rip into a 100-foot journey. Should have been the zigzag journey, because that was my problem with this movie. It was too much of a zigzag. Don't get me wrong. The 100-foot journey starts off well-meaning, I should say. It has the usual setup. You got the young man whose family has to leave his home country. So he comes to France to try to find a new life. Now this is the young man, of course it's the man on the right that I'm speaking of. The grandfather is leading the way despite the fact that he's older, or maybe it was their father. Family relations were hard to follow in this one. I'm sorry, it was their father that was dragging them around, I think. It was their grandfather. I did see this movie, just so you know. Anyway, the old man dragged them around. And of course, you have the usual elements, you know? The love interest. You're going to meet her when the car breaks down, and she's going to be the one that tows you. It's going to break down in front of a restaurant, a closed restaurant, you know? Just old, raggedy, no one's been there for a while, no one's used it for anything. Fine, all the cliches are there. Now, they buy the restaurant. First issue I had with this family and with this movie was, what was their money situation really like? I mean, they were driving around this broken down automobile, you know, where the brakes failed. They got that fixed, and yet they were able to also buy this restaurant. But then again, this is a movie. You're not supposed to care about their money situation. Money, I'm sure, was tight. He's a haggler, so it's okay. I'm golden. So, following this around, but of course, this restaurant opens across the street from Helen Mirren's restaurant. She's trying to be a top-notch restaurant. The Prime Minister goes and eats there. And there's just a little India-style restaurant, and people in France, they don't eat that kind of food. Why would they? Okay, we have the conflict. Let's get going. And now comes the war. The war between the two restaurants. It's more of the war between Helen Mirren and Ampre. And if I'm mispronouncing that, please forgive me. I am not meaning to insult. These were the best actors in the movie. As a matter of fact, if the movie could just have been about these two people, I would have been happy, because the other people kind of got in the way. They kind of annoyed because they didn't have the screen presence nor the acting chops that the other actors, that the more seasoned actors had. And that was a kind of a letdown, but that's okay, to be expected. You know? So far so good. You know, I can't expect, you know, that girl on the left to have the acting chops of a Helen Mirren. To be expected. So I forgave that as well. You'll notice there's a lot of forgiving going on in this movie. But I'm enjoying it now. The war is on. It's a battle between the restaurants. Everything's fine. Until the movie shifts focus from him trying to set up a restaurant and compete with her to him going to work for her / learn from her. Is he a student? Is he a worker? Who knows? But you know what this is about? It's about the second star, which had no angst to it. And this is where I take real offense to this movie. There's no angst beyond the war. There's no passion anymore. There's no spice anymore, I guess. Should I be using food analogies? Of course I should. It's a cooking movie. Didn't have the same oomph that Chef had. This movie plays itself off as a several course meal. You know? The intro, the challenge, the setup, the war. A dessert would have been nice and then end the movie. But no. We're going to go all sorts of different directions. He comes over to her. Fine. That's the 100-foot journey. As a matter of fact, boy, did I just say that wrong? Anyway, that's the whole point. At one point, they even said, it's 100 feet between her door and our door. I know, I measured. That was his brother who said that. All of a sudden, you have this, I don't know how to describe it. The idea that a restaurant is judged by a certain number of stars. And I can't say it's the MacGuffin, because it's not. The MacGuffin was just trying to set up a restaurant just to live. You know, that was the MacGuffin. These stars were introduced, but there was no substance to the stars, if you understand what I'm saying. And when they finally get to the second star, it meant nothing. And when you're at the third star, it means even less. 100-Foot Journey is a movie that could have ended 45 minutes into it when the best parts were over. But for some reason, they kept going and going and going, but they weren't developing anymore. They weren't creating anymore. They were just going through the motions. You know, if you remember the movie Chef with John Favreau, he wanted his passion. He wanted his art. But there was no more passion. It was passable for a moment. But then it lost even its averageness and it went down here into mediocrity. And it was like, come on, guys, where are you going with this? And why is it that these stars mean nothing? I always take it that the stars were like a sports movie. Like if they don't win the big game, their lives are over and they would have failed. They have to win the big game to prove to the world what they're worth. You know, that's what it's all about for these kind of things. These stars were just there. There was no build-up to the stars. There was no passion for the stars. There was just the, oh, you got a star. You know, pour the champagne and celebrate. And there was some confusion about who really got the stars. Now, I'll clear that up for those of you who may have been confused. First off, the star goes to the restaurant. That's why Helen Mirren's restaurant got the second star, but because of his cooking. So what's the first thing he does? He leaves. Well, your prize chef has left the restaurant. Doesn't that mean you lose the star also? Or what's the point of keeping a star if the reason you got the star is walking out the door the second you get the star? It all becomes pointless. And then they're like, oh, it's such a deep meaning. We're going to get our third star. It's going to be so important. But it really didn't have any importance to it. It's like if I get it, great. If I don't get it, no big deal. Not important to me because I didn't need it. You know? He knew what he needed. He knew what he wanted. And that's what he came back to. But it wasn't a 100-foot journey to get to that point. It was a 1,000-foot journey. It was a league journey. And it was too long, too boring, and not focused properly. It had a focus. It had a build-up. And then it shifted. But it didn't bring the passion with it. And that's why 100-Foot Journey gets a pass. I was not pleased with this movie. I found it boring. I found it unfocused. And I just think they went all over the place. So I wasn't happy with 100-Foot Journey. It's a journey that's not worth taking. Enough with the analogies. I'll see you at the theaters.